Hey, good morning or good afternoon. Scott Luton, Greg White with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's Supply Chain Buzz live stream. Greg, good afternoon. How you doing?
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be. I'm doing well. How are you? I really want you to share how you're doing today because people need to know this, Scott.
So I am in pain for sure. You know, the Braves blew a 3-1 lead in the NLCS. The Dodgers will be playing Tampa Bay in the World Series, and that hurts. We've been long-time Braves fans, but hey, you know what? I had some great context, some table setting over the weekend, and that puts life in perspective. And I've been reevaluating my fandom for all things. And it's neat to be a fan, but there's some much bigger things in life, and that helps me
undoubtedly
balance the losses. So all told, we're doing okay, Greg.
Outstanding.
So today, moving right along, today it's all about supply chain buzz, right? We're going to take some of the big stories that's taking place out there across the industry, some of them, and share the facts and give you our take on why it's important and maybe what to look for. So stay tuned as we work hard, Greg and I, to increase your supply chain IQ. And Greg, we have got two of our biggest friends of the show.
Yep.
Will Haraway and Kara Brown with lead coverage joining us about 12:20, right?
Yeah. Looking forward to hearing what they're going to tell us. I think we're going to get an interesting perspective on one of our favorite words, democratization.
Yes, that's right. Supply chain for the people. We love that. Love talking about that. All right. So before we hit our programming notes and a couple of quick events, let's say hello to a few folks. Jeff Miller, I hope this finds you well, and I hope that you've had safe travels and great to have you back here on a live stream, right, Greg?
Yeah, no doubt. Hope all is well there.
Latia, hey, good afternoon. Latia, great to have you back. Look forward to reconnecting with you soon.
Latia, I invoked your name over the weekend. You may be getting a call from a young lady from Duke University or Kansas State, who is in the supply chain program there, who could probably use some of your guidance.
Fantastic. Francois, great to have you back. Yes, that Braves upset was painful for sure. Great to have you here, though. Pratik, awaited live stream is here. Good morning. Oh, thanks for that. Pratik, great to have you here via LinkedIn. The one and only Gary Smith is with us. Really have enjoyed your perspective on these live streams, Gary, and I owe you an email. So I'll be back in touch very soon on that, Gary. Let's see here. Man, they're rolling in now. Partik, great to have you. Daria, Mike Avera, hope this finds you well, sir. Asjid, Kavan, Kayla, Pierre is here with us. The Masked Man, we know he's a male. T Squared 2001 is back with us. Last time he was talking about reverse logistics.
And a previous trivia winner, is that right? Did T Squared win that?
I think he came in top 10 last time we did that. Let's see, Hillary, and then we'll also say hello to Atifa and Don. Don, looking forward to your next It's Just a Mountain. I think you're moving it to Saturday mornings, Greg.
Okay.
Have you tackled that with Don?
I'm familiar with it. What is it?
So they go up and tackle, I think, Stone Mountain or one of the, Kennesaw Mountain, Stone Mountain, Saturday morning, kind of a motivational thing. And then they usually take a quick video up at the top with a inspirational, motivational message. So really neat.
Awesome.
All right. So let's couple quick things here. So first off, if you enjoyed today's live stream, be sure to check out our podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. Subscribe so you don't miss conversations like this. But today we featured Mike and Bob, I think with SAP it was, Greg, and we had a really neat conversation about baseball, about Industry 4.0.
Oh, right.
About one of my favorite parts, Greg, was how they were sharing some of the ways organizations have really dealt with the curveballs and adjusted their model to power through 2020, right?
Yeah, well, and I mean, you can sense the leadership from both of these folks, both at SAP, one for a very long while and the other by acquisition. So you can see some internal and external perspectives.
Yep.
And just incredibly knowledgeable and charismatic. They were blast to talk to, weren't they?
Yes. great time. I mean, it was a neat balance. Work stuff and baseball and some of the fun stuff. So keeping it light. So y'all check that out wherever you get your podcast from. All right, let's hit 2 quick events, Greg. So we're really excited. We had a great planning session last week on this event. What are folks going to hear about at AME 2020?
Manufacturing, of course, and and the most current events going on in manufacturing. I think we can all guess what that is, but also lean and the realities of lean versus the perceptions of lean. And I think that's going to be an important discussion.
Yep. Agreed. I really enjoyed the prep conversation and looking forward to that later in October. The link to this is in the show notes as always. And then a little bit later, about a week later, Greg, we've got the 2020 Supply Chain Summit coming up from the great folks over at Automotive Industry Action Group, right?
Right. Yeah. And, again, pivoted to a virtual event first and are doing it again, very reasonably priced, all about the automotive industry. I don't know where you could learn more about a multi-tiered supply chain than the automotive industry.
Yep. Well put. And y'all check it out. November 5th. It's jam-packed. Whole theme's about the future of supply chain, especially from 5 years out, right? They're not talking 30 years out. They're not talking next year. They're talking really 5 years out. So we've enjoyed our pre-event discussions there. All right. So before we share a couple of news and notes, Greg, and bring on our featured guests, say hello to a few additional folks. Kim Winter from the UAE is here with us. Great to have you here, Kim. Jenny Froome with SAPIX. Looking forward to their event.
Do it.
She might around the clock, or she's got clones. And then I'm going to say hello to one other friend here. We had Jason. There we go. Jason Moss, President CEO of GMA. Great to have you with us, Jason. All right. So let's dive into, so today's buzz is going to be a little bit different, Greg. We're going to hit one news story on the front end. We're going to talk key takeaways from a really neat and burgeoning area of business in the middle. And then we're going to bring on our two friends, Kara and Will, and we're going to dive into a lot of the most recent and important developments. So are you buckled up, ready to go?
I'm ready. My hands and arms are inside the vehicle.
All right. So let's talk about this first story here. So big new joint venture taking off in Vietnam. GLP, which did you know is the largest warehouse operator in China, is partnering with C Logistics Partners, which is a logistics facility. Well, it sounds more like just a general industry facility developer and operator, because I think they've also built out manufacturing sites. Okay. But regardless, together they're investing a whopping $1.5 billion in Vietnam. So this story comes from Supply Chain Dive, Greg, but I picked up in an article from IPE Real Assets that they said the next 3 years, the partnership plans to develop some 2.2 million square feet of facilities. That's what that 1.5 billion gets them. So look, we've heard plenty of talk in recent years about Vietnam, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be one of the China plus one countries, right?
That's right. But get this. So I know for many folks, it's been just recently they've been hearing more and more about Vietnam, but import from Vietnam have already doubled between 2013 and 2018. And the country is already the 7th largest importer of goods into the U.S. So this has been building for a while. So add to those trends, right? That's some of the pressure that the pandemic has put on the diversification of operations out of China, which you just alluded to. Vietnam certainly stands to gain even more. But here's a neat point made in this Supply Chain Dive article. Dan Krasenstein, I believe is how you say it. Dan, I apologize if I got that wrong. From Procon Pacific points out, there's plenty of trade-offs here. There's no silver bullet in sourcing, right? Vietnam's labor costs are about a third of what companies pay in China. But as of 2019, Vietnam's infrastructure and labor were already near capacity. Right. So maybe if you can find it, you might save money when it comes to labor and space and facilities, but it's not going to be easy necessarily. So I'm looking forward to maybe how this big investment might build out that infrastructure. Greg, what's some of your takes here?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about this since this whole spirit of reshoring and nearshoring and China plus X number has come up in the COVID age. And the reality is you can look around the planet and you can't find enough labor and infrastructure to do what China does, which is why China does it. And so, yeah, there is definitely no silver bullet, but it's better to diversify than not, right? And people are trying to find places all over the world to diversify, at least to give options to China and options generally in the supply chain, which you definitely need. You need a plan A, a plan B, and probably at this point, a plan C.
I love that take. I think Gary Smith also shared the same thing on one of our last live streams. So a lot of good stuff.
One of the key tenets that if we didn't know it already, and many people did, but certainly the broader supply chain did not, is that in supply chain, you must assume that everyone will fail you and prepare for that. That's what risk management is, right? I've said that for years. That sounds like a kind of a dark take, but the truth is it's a great, the way that you become number one is you will eliminate any opportunity to lose. So
I'm with you. Let's say hello to a few folks before we move on to SAP CX takeaways. Daniel Hartnett says, hello from Reston, Virginia. Finally able to join again live as he listens in while painting the bathroom on his day off. Man, hey, we're moving up on how folks engage with our platform.
And he gets Monday off. I mean, raise your hand if you would like to get Monday off.
That's right.
And as we've been saying since COVID, every day is Monday.
That's right. So Larry Klein is back with us. Larry had some really neat stuff to say about our lean discussion a week or two ago.
Yeah.
It's a hard day for Georgia sports fans, to say the least. Down with the Tide and the Dodgers. All right. Good
Larry, stuff. The dog Clay he's in a bad place right now. So lift him up.
Because he shares clearly his fan sentiments with the one and only Fred Tolbert, where Fred says he needs a buzz to pull him out of a funk. Dogs and Braves made for a long weekend.
Yes.
Agreed. All right, so let's keep driving. It's a jam-packed episode here today. This next big topic we want to talk about, Greg, is CX, right? Customer experience. Now, if you're like me and maybe like Greg, I'll let Greg speak for himself. When I've heard the phrase customer experience, I really think about the voice of the customer. I think about it more informally, right? It was just recently that I uncovered this is a very formal, strict discipline of best practices, and it's permeating supply chain. And it's really important that it does that, because supply chain it helps make it happen, helps optimize customer experience.
It's the goal. Yeah.
So as I was getting involved with SAP and their CX Live event, which is a yearly event, this year they made it virtual and they made it free. Ton of good content. I want to share a couple key takeaways, but before we do, I want to bridge it back to supply chain, because as I was doing my homework, Greg, our friends over at CSC&P partnered with Blue Jay Solutions and Adelante SCM in 2019, and they surveyed over 500 supply chain professionals. One of the key takeaways here was over the next 5 years, customer experience will overtake price and product as the number one brand differentiator. Do you agree or disagree? 61% of those surveyed agreed with that assertion. So quick hit from you, Greg.
I think it should already have, but yes. But I think we ought to talk about what CX is, because there are multiple perceptions of that, right? So for instance, coming from the tech world, customer experience, there's UI and UX, user interface, and user experience. And CX is similarly considered kind of a technical gift. But you really need to think of it from customer experience is the entire experience that your customer has with you. That is on-time delivery, right price, right packaging, good interaction with your people or your surrogates, all of that. And yeah, of course, that I can't believe that that's not already the top.
Yeah. So you're saying that 61% should have been 100%.
I'm saying it should. Well, I don't know if it should be 100%, but I'm saying it should clearly be the majority of it, because it's the reason you exist. Customer experience is the reason a company with a product at a price exists.
Yep. Well put. And David agrees with you. Customer experience means way more than it did 10 years ago. Completely agree.
Well, it means way more to companies. It means exactly the same to customers, right? They may not have been able to express it, and we may not have been as aware of it, and may have been able to get away with ignoring it, but no more.
So
put these on this segment.
That's right. Greg just broke out his Maui Jim sunglasses. So let's talk about, I've got 3 key takeaways that I really enjoyed from the SAP CX Live event. One of them came from a senior technology leader from Maui Jim. And, you know, Greg, we were talking pre-show about some of these points here, and what Maui Jim shared in one of these breakout sessions, all of it's on demand. You can go to the link we've got in the show notes. But 2 things. First off, Maui Jim is really elevating. They want to make their repairs experience as successful as the purchase experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what they found as they really were trying to optimize that for their customers is that these robocalls, this robocall environment that we're all living in, it's shaping consumer behaviors to take less phone calls. So all their repair phone calls that coordinated the returns and you know what's wrong and getting them back to the consumer, where folks weren't answering the calls. So they shifted over to texting, and by doing so, and of course making sure their reverse logistics game is on point, they've been able to trim 24 to 36 hours out of the turnaround time for repaired shades. The other thing that I know you're going to appreciate, Greg, because you've talked about this numerous episodes the last few weeks. So Jim Ferrillo, the senior technology leader with Maui Jim, he was really honest in this conversation, really transparent. He talked about how at the end of 2019, he and his team had formulated the bulletproof 3-year strategic plan, and they loved it. They polished it up. They were so excited about it. They're about to take it into the CFO's office and get it approved. And then 2020 hit, and then Greg, you're supposed to do your sound effect. There
COVID happened.
That's right. So now they're not looking that far out, 3 years. They're looking, he said, they're trying to focus on executing over the next 3 months. And so many businesses and business leaders can relate to that, right, Greg?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and look, that is the world we live in today. Is you have to be looking at, as I have been promoting for years, but now this has brought it into stark relief. Past performance is no indication of future success, right? So we have to think about the world in a new way. Hey, let me share a couple things on Maui Jim, because it's interesting that they are so aggressive in improving their customer experience, because this is the second pair of these glasses that I've had. They're actually prescription glasses, and I play tennis in them. I play golf in them. I drive cars in them. I ride motorcycles in them. I don't do everything but yard work in these things. And I have broken them before. And because they're prescription, I went through my, is it optometrist? Eye doctor.
Sounds good.
And they sent them back. And all that was wrong with them was a screw had broken somewhere. And what Maui Jim did was they sent me an entire new set of frames. And I was like, why did they do that? And they said, because you represent our brand every single day.
Awesome.
And that's how important customer experience is to this entity. And I just feel like that was really impressive. That is an unpaid endorsement. I don't even know if it's an endorsement. It's just, I'm a customer service and customer experience hawk. And we're about to talk today to one of the greatest customer experience companies in the world, Sweetwater.com. And I'm really looking forward to that. But when you showed me this article, I had to think about that, because these I have broken yet again. I've broken them yet again, but I do have the confidence that when I send them back, they'll come back over delivered.
Yes,
so it's good that they think about things that way. If you're out there thinking about how to handle customer experience, look at this company.
Be confident, because they're serious about not just the purchase experience, but to your point, Greg, the repair experience. So it's really neat to hear a very transparent and frank conversation about how they've been able to do that. So really
That's
cool.
How you change things, right?
That's right.
You have to be frank and transparent.
So we're going to hit these next two key takeaways quickly, and then we're going to bring our dear friends Will and Kara on with us. So Ashton Kutcher, admittedly, I have not been tracking him nearly as much in the last 10 years. You know, we all are familiar with Ashton, probably with the Punk series on MTV, on Dude, Where's My Car, the movie, a variety of all the stuff he's
Two
been
and
a
a
part
Half
of.
Men. Yeah, right.
Well, guess what, Greg? They've invested
in a movie or two.
Yeah. He and his partners at an investment firm have invested over $300 million into a wide variety of startups over the last 10 years. And he was asked in this really neat conversation with Paula Henson as part of the CX Live event, now, what do you look for? What are some of the criteria? Well, Ashton kept it really simple and really focused. And it really meant a lot to me as a founder and an entrepreneur. He built his whole answer around this notion of enduring happiness. And he looks for that. Great products and brands are built by those that deliver enduring happiness. And it was one of those moments. Beautiful simplicity is what came to my mind, and it really spoke to me. Greg, we talked about this a little bit last week on a couple of sessions. I mean, are you buying that?
I am. I mean, look, I think however you word it, right? Enduring is the key word there. Whether you insert enduring relationships, enduring happiness, enduring performance, enduring return on investment, whatever it is, because of your niche in the marketplace, enduring is the key word. So Ashton his investment thesis is mostly focused on consumer products, right? So of course they need to produce happiness, but whatever your niche in the marketplace, there is a lesson here, and that is enduring.
Great point. Lesson learned for sure. And then finally, and that we need to dedicate a whole live stream, a yearly dose of live streams. This subject. There was a great breakout session on purposeful diversity and inclusion. And two quick points here. One came from Callie Green on the left. Callie was asked, how can they improve the Black experience in the tech space? And her very frank response was, start by hiring Black people in tech. And it was a wonderful frank.
There's beautiful simplicity right there.
Right. And I wish I could, there was a ton of numbers shared in this breakout session in terms of being underfunded and over mentored and some comments like that. But the other one I really liked came from Erica Davis, who shared that, quote, we should all recognize the benefits of catering to non-typical stakeholders in your ecosystem. And, certainly something to act on as business leaders, as investors, as entrepreneurs, you name it. I mean, thinking about all the folks that may not be, as she put it, your non-typical stakeholder, and thinking about that as you productize, as you go to market in your messaging, in your hiring, in your promotions, and your investments. Really neat stuff there from Callie and Erica. Your last take on that, Greg, before we bring on Kara and Will.
Yeah, I think we need to just look at people as persons generally. And in the spirit of Callie's discussion, or her point, is ask Black people, right? I mean, because we've heard this before from Tandria, and I was talking on Blended, another show about diversity, about that. Tandria, Callie probably don't claim to represent the entire Black community. So right. You just have to continue to ask your constituencies, regardless of who they are, because it's interesting, this whole typical and non-typical thing. We had this whole discussion around the words we use. I mean, look at our audience here. Who's typical in our audience? Right? Who's typical? But even between the two of us, we had that discussion with Elba Perea Gallagher last week, right? I mean, there's a lot that people could assume about our respective cultures or ethnicities or whatever that they could be surprised about. So I think we just have to experience people as people, and that then becomes the solution.
Agreed. Great comments there. And we're going to be talking a whole bunch more about that topic because we need to, and look forward to a lot more learnings like we had last week with Elba. And frankly, like I've had from your background journey, but more to come on that. So we are excited at this point on the buzz here on October 19th. Man, it's halfway to November. We're bringing on Kara Brown, Chief Revenue Officer with Lead Coverage, and her colleague Will Haraway, Chief Content Officer with Lead Coverage, for an enlightening conversation right now. Hey, Will, Kara, good afternoon.
Hey guys,
what's up,
nice to see you.
Well, really quick, and we're excited to continue to take our partnership to a whole new level. I think some of the folks may have seen some of the press releases we put out there, but excited about the partnership. But also here in the moment, we're excited about some of your recent observations on what is going on in the wide world of supply chain.
Yeah, I think one of the things Will and I have been talking a lot about is sort of the democratization, to use Greg's term from earlier. Thanks for queuing us up for that. Some exciting stuff happening even like in our client base, right? So we focus on supply chain, heavy industrial, and tech in our practice, which is awesome for your audience. I think one of the things that we're seeing is the disruptors in the TMS space, specifically supply chain technology space, are getting together, right? We saw truckstop.com and Transport Pro today announce something. We've got our friends at Torch doing cool stuff. And so I think we've been seeing these sort of these smaller disruptive technologies that are hooking up to sort of compete with the big guys, which we think is really neat.
Love that. Supply chain for the people was a phrase that we talked about pre-show. All right. So Greg, you want to comment on that before we go over to Will and kind of pick his brain on some of the things he's seeing?
Well, when the D word is used, I'm all for that. Look, the market doesn't change because big giant ships change direction, right? The market changes because companies come in and force change on the marketplace. And we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks, that in the physical logistics space, one, there are a lot of companies approaching this space. You can call it freight tech, you can call it whatever you want, but there are a lot of companies approaching this space. And two, it clearly needs to change. We've talked about the inefficiency in the marketplace. We've talked about intentional obfuscation and all sorts of issues that exist in this marketplace, that in order to make a fairer marketplace, I'm talking to you, Nerfod, and in order to make a fairer marketplace, we need to have more transparency and more of this disruption in the marketplace.
Agreed. And by the way, hello, Nerfod and Keith Duckworth. They're talking about broccoli and Brussels sprouts for the first time probably ever on a buzz. So love to have y'all here. And steak.
Nerfod is enduringly happy after a steak. So.
All right. So Will, hey, good afternoon. Tell us, what are some things you're tracking?
Well, just some of the things that Kara talked about. Yeah, for sure. Like the last mile and the first mile. I mean, it's really starting to get, as you guys have said, democratized. I mean, you're seeing, even going down to like carrier TMSs and drayage TMSs and on down the line. I mean, the tech disruptors are really starting to take over the shop. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today, we had another report from our friend of the show, right? Resilience 360.
Oh yeah.
They put out another one of their, big reports. This one is navigating the COVID environment and the trends and risks facing global tech supply chains. And it's pertinent because it definitely refers back to some of the things that Greg was talking about in the buzz number one, right? And the number one story, certainly around China, because I'll start with this one. One of the tech trends that they talk about in this report, and you can find it at resilience360.com, is the over reliance on China. Like this is certainly revealed. This entire year has revealed the over reliance on China and leaning on things like your regional supply chain with your 3PLs, that have more agility, that have more flexibility. Certainly supply chain visibility is another one, again, just for the same exact reason. It continues to, you have to be as flexible as possible. And by doing that, you definitely need to know where everything is going to be. Shifting supply chains is a third one. As far as again, sort of as you talked about earlier, when it comes to Vietnam, moving from looking at things like South Korea, like Taiwan,
Malaysia, India. Yeah. I mean, there's so many options, even Africa,
so many,
right? Yeah,
exactly. And something that we talk about with one of our clients, Redwood, they have Redwood, Mexico, the whole division, is what they have seen is that so many of the home appliance manufacturing is done in Mexico. And that's where you've seen so much demand over these last several months is, just home goods and home appliances. And so you've seen a lot of shifts back to Mexico manufacturers and suppliers, which, is really, really constraining their capacity as well. So it's just like one pinch happens here, another pinch happens, other place in the globe down the chain.
Well, I can tell you this, speaking of home appliances, clearly there has been a rush on the market for dishwasher spare parts because we waited about a month and a half on some spare parts. And I can tell you, I know all y'all have kids that are here. Yeah. Try having 3 kids and going back to manual dishwashing. We had dishes everywhere in that kitchen. But to your point, Will, because you're right, so many of the spare parts market for appliances and others have really been disrupted. And so naturally companies are looking to move some operations around so they can fill some orders,
Well, I think one of the things that we're seeing is in certain markets, we're just starting to see, I'm trying to look up some information here, but we're just starting to see the impact of the shutdowns that occurred maybe months ago. So
For sure.
Todd Raines, who was on the show
right. That's right.
Last week, he's a road biker, like serious, like rides hundreds of miles a day, which is insane. He's not on, is he?
He's riding his bike. He's not on.
He's riding his bike.
But he said, talking with my local bike shop guy, and that supply world is a mess. He's gotten a total of 5 bikes since May and is only scheduled to receive 9 more in 2020. And he's scared to death that the parts supply is dwindling because service is the only thing keeping him open. So we're just starting to see the impact of some of these disruptions. So, I mean, there's a lot of that yet to come in the industry.
Yeah,
for sure. And yet capacity is tighter than ever, right? Which is, it's the dichotomy of people can't, the small businesses can't get the parts they need or the bikes they need, right? I'm sure this guy's neighborhood bike shop is doing a super small order, right? It's a lot harder to get 6 bikes than it is to get 6,000, essentially. So it's putting even a tighter squeeze on the small businesses, right? That are just trying to sort of get things into the hands of people, which is probably the hardest for everyone.
Agreed. All right. So Will, we kind of cut in halfway on some things you were sharing, but I think all of us really felt some of what you were sharing personally. So but keep driving. Well, what else you got?
Well, there's just 2 more that I'll bring up, and then I'll turn it over. But one is obviously something that is not even really COVID related. It's just the climate. Natural disasters continue to add additional disruption. One that even around the globe. I know we focus on what happens in the Gulf and Hurricane Delta a couple of weeks ago, but in September there were 2 back-to-back typhoons in Malaysia, and I'm sorry, in Japan and Malaysia, and they caused tech manufacturers to halt their operations again, just disrupting so much of this sourcing and supplying on top of what we're already experiencing. And the last one that I found really, really interesting is cybersecurity threats have been. You've seen a number of those over the past several months. Everyone from Canon, LG has seen one, Xerox has seen one. So I think you're seeing cyber criminals sort of take advantage of the uncertainty to do the where they come in and do basically the hijack of the data and then the ransom. And you're seeing a lot of these guys just go ahead and pay it rather than deal with it. So you're starting to see people continually beefing up their cybersecurity processes. But this whole report, like I said, is available at Resilience 360. Encourage everybody to go take a look that's interested in supply chain, which is everyone that listens to this podcast. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, they're really sharp people there, Greg. We've had them on the show here. I love talking. They're analysts that really have their finger on the pulse. Before you weigh in, Greg, I want to share just a couple of comments from the audience here.
Sure.
So first off, Gary says you don't have to have kids to appreciate any home appliances. Well put, Gary. I apologize, but I'll tell you, my three little goblins, it's Halloween theme, right? They were stacked. Yes, we had to put them to work. Let's see. Francois says 100% agree that the appliance shortage is due in large part to construction being put on hold. Many builders are seeing 3-month lead times, even from Home Depot. It's
That's
making a lot of them rethink how they're sourcing their finishing materials.
So I don't know if everyone around the world knows this, but housing sales are booming in the States.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter was trying to do a home viewing on Saturday. She said on Thursday night, I had 10 houses on my list. And on Friday morning, I had 3. The other 7 had sold. So,
wow.
So that is a big cause because, of course, as houses sell or get built, new appliances are often required.
And I'm also hearing that the renovation market's up too, right?
Big time.
I mean, it's people have told me if you want to do something to your house,
24/7 here, I better love it, right?
Yeah, and they're saying expect it to take twice as long and cost twice as much. So, you know what's good about that though? Someone's winning in that economy, right? Someone's winning there. So I like it, even though it might cost me half as much to get my deck enclosed. 1, I have a deck that I can enclose, so good for me, right? And 2, like, so I'm paying somebody to do it, so that's great.
Good point. Good point.
Silver lining.
So to your point, Nerfad says in Canada it was the hottest housing market in September on record ever.
Wow.
David says my parents always said they had 2 dishwashers, me and my sister. Well, I like that. And going back to cyber attacks, Will. So Dan Hartnett says we're starting to see cyber attacks no longer just against the soft underbelly of small sub-tier suppliers. Given the massive number of remote working, attackers now going directly after large corporations too.
Yep.
That's right.
And then let's see, a couple final points here. Mike's seeing a huge demand shift from multifamily homes and condos to single family homes since COVID.
Everyone's trying to get out of their condo and get more space to go away from their kids.
Right.
True. Jeff Miller says, hey, new home construction in Florida has 7 to 9 months lead time. Wow.
People are literally buying homes sight unseen. One of the houses that my daughter was going to look at, they insisted that they would not sell it to any purchaser who made them an offer sight unseen.
Yep.
Wow.
Interesting, right?
Very. I want to circle back on something. Kara, I think you were talking about, you mentioned TMS and the democratization of supply chain tech. Boy, that's a word. I need to cut another couple cups of coffee. Kara, we published an episode with 3G TMS, I think last Friday. And I know all of us got a kick out of the service merchandise model. Greg, I know in particular you did, that we were talking about with JP and his background.
Yeah.
It was really, Greg, I think verbatim, you said that service merchandise was the Amazon before Amazon in some ways, right?
Well, I mean, it was the precursor to curbside pickup. I mean, if you think about how retail is done, showrooming, right? You order it online or pick it up in the store. I mean, they had an outstanding model, which was one of everything on the floor. So you could try it out or try it on. And then you could fill it out in the store. You could order it through a catalog. You could pick it up in store, or you could have it delivered to you. And that was in the 80s, just to give you an idea, right?
Man.
Service merchandise, best products. And there was, I think, one more. They called them catalog stores, right? And JP gets it. I mean, JP Wiggins, I couldn't help but comment when we published that article that which is old is new again. And JP experienced that so many times. And the brilliance of his understanding, and I'm telling you, you have to listen to that episode. The brilliance of his understanding is that he was able to see these things coming and apply them because he internalized those kind of experiences, and he went back to them in his mind to say, we could use this old methodology in this new age. That is a gift.
It is a gift. Great conversation, fun conversation. He also, in his spare time, umpires baseball games and donates his earnings to charity. I mean, really a neat thought leader. And Kara, when you talked about democratizing TMS, it was one of the first things that come to mind. Will, your comment?
Oh no, I was just
agreeing.
Emphatic.
He's like, let's talk more about it.
So do you remember that, Will?
I remember, I think my mom actually worked at the service merchandise where I grew up, as a part-time gig when we were really, really little. Because I remember, I think she worked the jewelry counter a million years ago. My dad tells the story, the building, 600 West Chicago, where Echo Global Logistics is, when I first got a job there in 2006, it was where the old Montgomery Ward service center essentially was. And so same idea, right? They had pick, pack, and ship out of this giant warehouse at Halstead and Chicago, downtown Chicago. So just even the changing landscape of, how people are doing business and the way they're doing business. But 3G is really cool. They've got some really cool stuff. And they're really forward thinking, which I think is what I really like about them, and that they are forward thinking in terms of the full supply chain, right? End to end for any and all shipper, broker, or carrier. And it's exciting to sort of be a part of what these new and up and coming transportation management software services are doing, the software companies. Way back in the day at Echo, I think I've told the story before to you all about, we were the first to put tech-enabled or tech broker sort of together back in the day. And I don't take credit for that. That was all Doug Wagner. But being able to be a part of that, and then 10 or 15 years later, people saying to me, well, there's no technology in supply chain, and this is an old, antiquated industry. And I'm like, are we in the same space? Because I feel like I wrote that copy in 2006. So Come on, let me show you what we've got, right? Which is super exciting. And seeing these young businesses, these real disruptors coming at it from a software perspective, I think is super exciting. Greg, sort of all about this more than we do.
Yeah, I think that is the beauty is, I've done a lot of studying on startups, of course, and especially technology startups, with not only the investing and advising that I do, but also for Tequila Sunrise. And one of the interesting things that I read is, and I put this in So You Want to Start a Technology Company episode. I can't even remember my own title, but it was something like that. And it was both an encouragement and a harsh awakening for potential founders. But a company that has someone 50 years or older as a co-founder is something like 40% more likely to succeed. Why do you think that is? Because, if you know history, like service merchandise, you can apply those memories to, here's how you can use that with today's technology. So much of what we did in the past was not because we didn't know any better. It's because we didn't have the data, the technology didn't exist. And now you can take some of those principles and apply those to the future and apply them to now. And I think we talked about that a little bit with JP, because, I think he said this, and this has been said many times, that which is old is new again, or, whoever does not study the past is doomed to repeat it. I would encourage people to look at how you can take good concepts like Jewel. Kara, you're from Chicago. Jewel, who delivered groceries in the 50s to homes, and how to apply technology to that and how to make that economical, or service merchandise or other models.
I think
there's some great adaptation opportunities there.
So right on it. And I think the ability of, back to democratization, right? The idea that you can use other people's tech to do this.
Yep.
Right, Greg? You don't have to be a technologist. You can use other people's technology and weave it together with other pieces of tech to come up with something that's really exciting. I mean, API-based TMSs, right, are super exciting folks that are finding interesting ways to use new technology and not necessarily building it for themselves, right? But being able to use other people's tech, weave it together to solve a very specific problem. To Will's point on, we're seeing drayage TMSs, we're seeing cartage TMSs, right?
Yep.
We're getting so myopic in the problems we're solving, which I think is cool. I think it's great. I think the ability to sort of cobble these together is going to be super exciting to watch.
So I agree. And I want to bring in Daria's point. So I'm going to ask y'all a yes or no question at the end of this point from Daria. It goes back to one of the things that Will shared. And Will, we'll put you'll be going first here. So Daria says,
Okay.
referring to Will's third point, there's a need to have accountability and responsibility at the C-suite, considering the fact that climate change is the impending disruption. Would like to know whether it's time that we carve out a chief climate change officer in order to prioritize sustainability on the driver's seat. Okay, so yes or no question to adding a chief climate change officer, as Daria points out, in the C-suite. Will?
I mean, from an aspirational perspective, yes. I guess it really depends on the company, but I mean, certainly, I know personally, I would like to see that. Ask me in a month, and maybe depending on how the things go with the election, we might have a clear direct. It might be a more clearer yes. How about that?
Okay, that's fair. And Daria, by the way, I love the comment. Appreciate that. Kara, your take.
Yes, for sure. Hands down. Hands down. I think someone at the C-suite level needs to be responsible for holding companies accountable for what they say they're going to do. I think it reminds me a lot about what's happening now with diversity, right? You're seeing a lot of companies put this chief diversity officer in place. Makes a lot of sense, right? Someone's got to be the chief everyone salutes to.
Yeah, that is a great point, Kara. I appreciate you bringing that up. Greg, your take.
I think it's the chief supply chain officer. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, it probably needs more focus than that, but nothing contributes more to environmental impact than the supply chain in any company. So to me, I feel like companies, I mean, don't you think we all wish that companies had been more aware of climate change, dumping stuff in the rivers and, all of this that's been going on for just literally centuries?
Right.
I think it's definitely time to apply that. Maybe it is time for that position. I can't give you a yes or no, but I can tell you that as I think Will said it best, aspirationally, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Whether companies will do that, I don't know, but
yeah. Good. Well, thank y'all each for answering the question.
For a one-word answer. Yes. You're welcome.
Hey, this link no one listens to directions these days. So LinkedIn, I don't know who this is. Maybe Clay or Amanda can pop this in the chats, but great idea. He or she says to make sure there is focus on it might be in place already at some companies as the chief sustainability officer. Well put.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
that I could see, because that could go towards climate change, even environmental factors, fair trade, and fair human practice. All of those things are equally critical things.
And that was Tim Bushway that just said that about the chief sustainability officer. So thank you for that, Tim. Great point. All right. Will and Kara, we never have enough time when we get together, but we look forward to continuing our collaboration and our partnership. Hey, let's make sure folks know how to connect with both of y'all. And just so you know, I do have your LinkedIn profile in the show notes for each of you. But Kara, how can folks connect with you?
Yeah, we are at leadcoverage.com. So you can get a hold of us at Kara at leadcoverage.com, Will at leadcoverage.com, or just head over to the website, fill out a form, and Amber will be calling you back shortly.
That's right.
Awesome. It's just that easy. Will, anything else to add on that?
No. Like I said, as Kara said, you go on the website. Amber's gonna find you. She's gonna. That's what we're.
It's that 5-minute rule.
We
5-minute rule.
We practice what we preach.
We do practice what we preach. Yeah.
Well, really enjoy all that y'all bring to the table. Love our conversations. We'll look forward to getting you back on some of our supply chain city stuff.
Yeah.
And even more. We're fast approaching a little curveball for you, Will. I'm hoping that we have some kind of concert with the Blue Dog or the Sun Dogs here year end. Anything you can share with the audience just yet?
I wish I could. I could go, and I'm a little hurt that you guys are talking to Sweetwater.com later, and you didn't invite me. But that's okay. I love that company, and
we'll mention you.
They're very good at. They're very good at customer service with their music selection is excellent. I don't know, they're good, but but nothing. I'll tell you, about a month ago when it started to get cool, I was, as we all were, this is the best weather we get around in Atlanta, so I was so excited. But it did bum me out just a little bit, because as the weather starts to cool, that means these outdoor opportunities are going away, because people are not interested in seeing concerts in a theater or in a bar or what, wherever. I mean, at least they're not comfortable with it yet. So, man, just like with all this other stuff, we just got to be patient.
That's right.
Just got to be patient. Probably wait for the weather to come back, and then hopefully the vaccine and all the things that we're all looking forward to. Maybe we just need this calendar year to just flip. I think that's probably.
I'm with you.
Get it done.
I'm considering it flipped every day. Yeah. I'm just starting a new year every day. I'm not waiting for 2021.
Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation with Kara Brown and Will Haraway, both with lead coverage. And guys, we'll be reconnecting again real soon.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks. Have a great day.
All right. Bye, guys.
Love our conversations. Oh, Will's still with us. I think we're going to have
an encore. Yes. An encore for the musician.
Oh, boy.
Made him bring his guitar.
Yes. So just to circle back and make sure our audience knows. So Will plays in a great band called Sundogs, and we've all really enjoyed their music. And they have they've been having a Tom Petty show at the end of the calendar year, I think, going back for numerous years. And as he was saying, with the current situation, it's probably not going to take place this year. So want to connect the dots for everybody. Want to also share, Greg, a couple of comments here from the audience. Mike says carbon taxing in Europe helps because it incentivizes taking carbon footprinting into consideration. Good point there, Mike. Evelyn Asher. Evelyn, hope this finds you well. Always love our LinkedIn exchanges. She says David Attenborough's newest documentary, Life on This Planet, addresses what man has done against man and what we can do to impact our environment. Good stuff there. Don, thank you. And hopefully you climb that mountain Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And finally,
next time you're around Kennesaw Mountain, let me know, Don.
That's right. To your point about flipping calendars, Keith says hindsight's 2020, and come January 1st, 2020 will be in hindsight.
Yeah.
I see what you did there, Keith. Very nice. All right. So, Greg, as we start to wrap up today's show, we've got some really cool news that, much to the chagrin of our CMO, I let out over the weekend. I think they want to build a campaign. I love you, Amanda. I jumped the gun a little bit because I'm really that excited about this option we're rolling out. So let's bring this back into the stream here, if I can work the buttons today. So this is a great quote from Oprah. And, she said, everybody just wants to be heard. Validate them. I see you, I hear you, and what you say matters to me. Well, Greg, if this is baked into the culture here, the DNA of supply chain now, right?
The voice of supply chain.
Yes,
right.
It's all about the voice of supply chain, and not just the folks we feature here, the leaders, the practitioners, the thought leaders, the professionals, you name it, but equally, if not more important, it's about our audience's voice and how can we amplify that.
Yeah.
So, Greg, before we roll out, speak to that a bit. I mean, that's what we really are that we act on that every day to figure out how we can more effectively and successfully amplify that voice, right?
We've been having discussions over the last several weeks of how to message that. We've gone through quite the identity evolution ourselves as an organization, and how to enunciate this whole voice of supply chain. We want to be the voice of supply chain, broad supply chain, the entire supply chain, transportation, technology, retail, distribution, manufacturing, all of those aspects of it. And it's important to hear from everybody in the supply chain so that we all get a perspective, because it's very easy to live in your niche. If you're in physical transportation, to live in physical transportation. If you're in manufacturing, to lose perspective on retail. If you're in retail, even possibly to lose perspective on the consumer. And as everyone here knows, we are firm believers that the consumer is the beginning and the end of the supply chain. So what we want to enable is for everyone in supply chain to share their perspective and to be heard by us and highlighted by us and shared with the entire community. So Scott, tell them how we're going to do that.
Yes. And when Greg says community, we use that word a lot because we're passionate about it, but we're really referring to the global community, right? And we're gonna really work to expand that and amplify those community members as much as we can. It is our North Star. So to that end, and look, this is not this isn't us launching a revolutionary iPhone or the Model T back in its day, or but what this is a small little feature that's really easy to use and really fits that mission we're talking about.
Yeah.
So we have uncovered this little tool and built it into our website. We're going to be building a page behind it to really make it as easy as possible. But if you look there, this is the snapshot of the top of our website right now. To the right-hand side, there's a little black tab that says, what does that say? We want to hear from you, just like what we're telling you, because we do. And what that allows you to do to our audience members, they can click that button. It takes them to a simple pop-up. I think they type in their name, maybe their email, so we know who it is. And then you can record into that device up to 5 minutes of your point of view, your insights, perspective. And we're working to elongate that a bit so that you have a little more room. But we wanted to start, Greg. The first question we want to throw out there to our audience to use this tool so that we can make sure it works well, and then figure out how to amplify that content is, hey, what's not being covered enough? What doesn't get enough visibility when it comes to global supply chain? We'd love to have folks take 4 or 5 minutes to pop on that device and share their take there. Right, Greg?
I'm sorry. I'm going to the site right now.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry. I was just going to record it right here. What's not getting enough coverage? Yeah, absolutely. We want to hear. This is a community to us, and you're not the audience, followers, or influencees, or whatever you might be in some other worlds. This is about all of us, and we want all of us to contribute to this.
Yep.
So.
It's just that simple. It really is just that simple. We're going to take these snippets, and we've
I'm laughing at David's comment.
Okay.
You got to pop that up.
Yeah, look at that. Can you? So David says, "Can you imagine how much trouble I can cause in 5 minutes?"
I cannot.
Well,
I bet it's a lot.
Bring it.
Yeah, bring it. Yeah,
bring it.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, we're gonna try to take it. We've thought about having dropping a show maybe like from the front lines or from the field, the supply chain field, and baking it into a show that we can offer a variety of perspective. We'll drop some different questions out there, but we really, at the end of the day, we want to hear from you, and we want to amplify so other folks can hear from your point of view. And it's hopefully that comes across as poignantly genuine as I'm trying to make it, because that's at the heart of this engine here at Supply Chain Now. All right. So I want to share this comment, Greg, because speaking of what we're passionate about, trying to connect people within the community, in particular veterans. As an Air Force veteran, I take that role very seriously. And Tom, I think we referenced him on the last live stream. He recently relocated to the upstate, and he's looking to jump back into supply chain. And so, really cool to see this. I think we were trying to connect him with some of our LinkedIn networks, and he says, "Big thank you to both of you and a few of your listeners I've never met who provided a positive endorsement in job search campaign mode, received some positive feedback and new connections." That is a beautiful thing, Tom. Greg, that makes your day.
It does. That is awesome. And all over the world, Scott, people are going, which state is upstate? So that's the northern part of South Carolina is known as the upstate here in the South. So, right. But yeah, so he's in Greenville. He's in the Greenville Spartanburg Metroplex, correct?
Yep. The GSA.
Yeah, that's right. Great part of the state. BMW is there. I think Mercedes-Benz has a facility there, and one of the scariest airports you will ever land in. You come in right over the top of the trees, over a hill. So
that is right.
Great part of the country. And Tom, we appreciate you, and we're glad that you're getting some connection to the community.
Undoubtedly, and Tom's got some great supply chain expertise already. So I think he built a new home or something, moved and looking to jump back in. So all the best. If you're in the live stream comments, hey, connect with Tom. a great network certainly helps. And Jeff says Michelin's got a plant up in the upstate. All right, one final resource, folks, and you can find links to this in the show notes. We've got an outstanding stand up and sound off event coming up October 28th, just 9 days away. We're going to be featuring Elba and Anya. Talk about some of the things they're doing to move that equity needle in their Fortune 500 organizations that they work in respectively. Looking forward to that. And Greg, radio is dead at least at Supply Chain Now, right?
Digital killed the radio star. So I have a feeling we won't have to say this for very much longer, but now we are no longer Supply Chain Radio Now, Supply Chain Radio, Supply Chain Now Radio, Supply Chain Radio, whatever. What we discovered was that 4 words was too much for us and that we're much better with 3. And I think now is the key. Could now be more important ever before than it is now.
I like that. We're gonna have to bake that in, Greg. You're a ever flowing fountain. I think that's a hymn too, but you are of great stuff. So,
well, okay. I'm glad you think it's great.
I love it. But I love what the audience brought today, and this was we had so much to share today on today's live stream that the ratio might have been a little too much in our outbound communications side, but regardless, appreciate what everybody shared, appreciate what you do. Looking forward to getting your feedback on this little tool we've got as we build that out. And Greg, what keeps coming to my mind as we about to sign off here is enduring happiness. What can you do every day to create that and deliver it? It just is part of the noble mission we're on here, right?
That's just not even just a corporate thing. That should just be one of your life goals.
That's right.
To create enduring happiness.
So on that note, hey, y'all check out supplychainnow.com. Thanks so much for tuning in for today's version of the Supply Chain Buzz. Big thanks to Will and Kara over at Lead Coverage for joining us. Big thanks to all the outstanding comments. David, hopefully you do get in trouble. Please get in trouble in 5 minutes. Looking forward to hearing your.
I think David and Nerfad should collaborate. Wouldn't it be nice if they could both record at once? That would be hilarious.
Yes. And you're right, Kim. Global supply chain community, right?
Yeah.
Bringing it all together. That's what it's always about. So great to connect with you in the recent weeks and looking forward to reconnecting soon. On that note, be like Ashton Kutcher, be like Greg White. On behalf of our entire team here, hey, do good, give forward, be the change that's needed, but create that enduring happiness. And with that said, we'll see you next time here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.